that's been revealed when we walk in your lights. When we walk in it.
Hello, and welcome to The Torch. I'm Pat.
I'm Kevin again. And
we are going to be talking about making your voice heard.
making your voice heard. We love talking about making our voices heard.
Well, yeah. What are we doing right now?
Making our voices heard.
Okay. So somebody else is with us today to help us do that.
We have a special guest.
Yes, we do. Her name is Kristen Rowin. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you.
Hello, Miss Kristen.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So I'm a wife and a mother to 3 boys that I homeschool. My husband and I own several businesses, so we are self-employed. We are in all facets of real estate. We enjoy that very much, and we also are active and faithful members at our local congregation.
And I will say this again, because she can bring it on the basketball court. They just bring it. They just kind of do some whooping. And originally, when Misty asked, "Hey, our friends, they were playing basketball. You want to come play with us?" It's like, no, like running around on the basketball court just did not seem like the fun thing for me. And she talked me into going one time. For the next, I think, 2 months, it was really a humbling experience to get my hat handed to me every time on the basketball court. So
We're
anyway,
slightly competitive.
slightly competitive.
Yeah.
Well, that answers a lot then about what you did.
And do. Yeah,
And
do. So
So sometime back you ran for public office.
Yes, I did. It was 2019 campaigning for the 2020 election in this congressional district here locally, Texas District 17. This was the year before the world changed.
the world changed. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. With COVID.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yeah. The year before everything changed. So what prompted me to run was actually my husband. He
Mhm.
came to me. Our congressman retired unexpectedly, and so he said there's going to be an open seat, and there is someone from a different district that doesn't live here that is a career politician that's going to be running. And coincidentally, there were about 12 people in this race at that time by the end of it.
12 people. Were they anybody you knew, or were they just all like unknowns at the time?
It was an interesting array of people. You had a career politician, and then you had someone else who's run for public office, spent hundreds of thousands unsuccessfully several times.
Wow.
You had regular people like myself, and there were a couple of other just regular people that wanted to answer that call.
So, Mr. David, can I say it?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure,
Mr. Yeah. So he saw this, and it's like, you would be perfect at this. Why don't you take a shot at it?
Yes.
And what was going on in the world at the time? Why did you what caused you to want to do this? I mean,
Sure.
like he asked you, but what's in here that caused you, and what were you seeing in society that really
Sure.
was?
So I would say that in the political world, from the time of 2016, I believe that there was a veil being pulled back, and
Mhm.
normal Americans like myself were able to see that there are bad Democrats and there are bad Republicans. For the first time,
Wow.
we realized that people on our team were not on our team. They
But-
just had the label.
Do you believe that the Union Party exists? It's no matter if it's a D or R, some of them play just on the same team.
Not across the board everyone, but I believe that there are the people that have been there for 30 years or 40 years.
Uh-huh.
There's no way that you can convince me that they have not done things that have probably compromised
Yeah.
their beliefs or ideals to get to where they are. Because again, what we're going to talk about is things that I've seen kind of behind the curtain in
Yeah.
running for public office, and
Right.
and some of the experiences there.
So you never ran for public office up until that time, and you kind of had to
Correct.
figure out what to do.
Correct. That was, yes, number one, because I had no idea, no consultants, no guidance. This was strictly my husband prompting me. And then once he told me that, because he's encouraged me for years, he's always said, you are a leader, you are
Yeah.
a doer, you
Mhm.
are a go-getter, and you have, the right ideas and the good values. Because the thing is that one of the qualities I have is that someone can tell me something,
Mhm.
and I will listen, I will consider it, but my beliefs and convictions are so strong
Sure. Yeah.
that I have worked it out many times in my mind. I question everything,
Yeah.
and because of that, my beliefs are very strong.
So if you're telling somebody at home there, like if you went and could do this, then anybody can figure it out and research
Absolutely.
and figure it out.
Absolutely.
Miss Pat.
So, tell us a little bit about your experiences. You kind of alluded to it now, but tell us a little bit more about your experiences in getting it set up. How do you run your campaign? How do you get on the ballot?
Sure.
Let's make it. My point is to get people to understand that they can get up off their couch
Yes.
and go
Yes.
and do something
Absolutely.
and make it. Well, I don't make it sound good, but tell the truth.
Sure. Sure.
But,
Well-
just come out and tell them how you accomplish some of these things.
Sure.
Because I know it had to be pretty complicated.
Sure. So I am the kind of person that likes to figure things out.
Mhm.
I see a problem. I like to problem solve. And, with this, I did a lot of research online and things like that. Being part of the Republican Party, there's some resources that they have out there. Basically, to start, I started, created a Facebook page, which is free to do, to spread some of my message and to be able to connect with people in my district. And I also created some print material, kind of like a business card, brochures, door tags. These are all things.
Just like Kristen Rowin, I'm running for
Right.
district
Right, 17,
17,
and listed my
House Representative.
platform, some of my ideas, pro-life, pro-constitution, which it's sad you have to say that now in this current climate that you are
Yeah.
pro-constitution and you believe in it. And you do go register down in Austin. You have to register. You have to pay a fee.
Like Secretary of State's office.
The Republican Party of Texas
Oh,
office. Really? Yes. And it was actually, I want to say, somewhere in the $4,000 range to pay.
You pay a fee to get your name as a candidate.
Correct.
$4,000.
It was
Wow.
it was either $4,300, $4,700. It was somewhere in the $4,000
but in the
range.
thousands.
Thousands.
Not like here's $40. You may get
Correct.
What?
Correct.
Do they help you with funding your campaign?
No, because they're not going to get involved until there is a chosen candidate after the primaries.
Primaries, yeah.
So because I was one of 12,
Yeah.
They had to see how it played out. But I actually did the math after the race, and I probably spent around $10,000 or $11,000 on my campaign, which is peanuts compared to some other people spent over $500,000. I did,
but out of your
correct,
pocket,
out of my pocket,
and anybody who donated to your campaign.
Correct.
But,
and I did the math. Coincidentally enough, my amount spent in correlation to the amount of votes that I got was the best of any other candidate. So the amount per vote was less than any other candidate.
Seems like people can tell the difference between a career politician and those. And I mentioned it up. Was this you that I was talking when we were on the soccer field? We were at a soccer game or something like that, and Kristen came, and their family came and watched the soccer game with our little one, and one of the people that was there on Betty's team It's like, hey, we voted for you.
Oh yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
So it's like, wow,
Yes.
and that was already several years back that they
That was
remember that.
4 years ago.
Yeah,
4 years ago, and I appreciate that. It's actually very encouraging because
I'm sure. Yes.
we were at another event
Uh-huh.
for a candidate for, remember, the state representative race this year.
You were there, Miss Pat, at the Red Barn.
And there were 2 or 3 people that came up and said, "Hey,
Oh,
you're Kristen. I voted for you," and I'm like, "Thank you so much."
That's really good.
Well,
So-
are you considering running again?
I will not rule it out, but but right now, having 3 children at home that I'm homeschooling, I believe that my greatest contribution to the kingdom
Amen.
right now
Come on.
is going to be how I raise them. So right now, my focus is my family and my church and my community on this level. But I do believe that God called me for a purpose, and I'd love to talk about that, about what I saw and what I experienced. I would love to discuss that more in depth with you.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So one of the really, I'd say, disappointing things that I realized, because I was 28 when I ran, so I was young, still, pretty.
Naive a bit?
I would say I was going to say not
On
necessarily
that.
naive, but
on that
hopeful.
kind of thing.
Hopeful, I guess.
Yeah.
Hopeful. Even though, again, the veil had been pulled back
Yeah.
and seeing all these things, I still thought, okay, people are going to see through things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I'll tell you what it came down to. The candidate with the most money. Okay? And I will say that I met with the outgoing congressman. He wanted to meet with all the candidates. And
so he can throw his endorsement towards?
Right. I think he was trying to feel them out, okay?
Oh, okay.
To see if they could even...
Can you tell us the name of that person? It was...
Bill Flores.
Oh, okay.
Bill Flores, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so he basically told me, listen, you're young. I think you've got a lot of potential. He said, but if you don't have $100,000 in the bank, you're not going to win.
Wow.
And
just like that.
Just like that. Very direct. And I do appreciate the honesty. But again, my convictions are such that I was going to see it through. And that knowledge and that experience led me on to so many more things about revealing and showing of how the political climate is. And so for me, that even prompted me to get more involved, more vocal for finding the candidates that are true grassroots and really supporting them, giving them my dollars, putting a sign out in front of my yard, going to the campaign events, sharing their information on Facebook. There's so many things that are free that you could do to make your voice heard, right? To spread that message. And we have to. We have to. Because I think there's still some shyness that exists about expressing your bold beliefs, right?
Who was talking about, there was that, Linda last week on the Torch, Linda was talking about the signs in her yard, and she was relating that elderly person who put the sign in the yard, and the guy came with the four-wheeler and ran it over, and then he went and put the sign back in the yard and went back and forth. He was trying to express himself, and the kid turned around and took the four-wheeler and ran him over.
He was in the hospital in critical condition. I don't know what.
So the kid ended up, unfortunately, not wanting to be here anymore. Can't say that part on here.
Wow.
So, but there is that thing that's going on. It's like even posting on any of the platforms that we're on. Sometimes, and I know for a fact, personal experience with that, Facebook and YouTube, the only 2 out of all the other ones that we're on, are still shadow banning us because of our convictions of what we said about COVID and what we said about 2020, the election being hijacked and stuff like that. And so they can deny it,
right?
But it's even places on like the neighborhood app, or it's not neighborhood, Nextdoor app, and some things.
Nextdoor.
When last year or 6 months ago when we were going to do the one-day class over here or something, we were inviting people over for that. And on the Nextdoor app, the liberals came out of the woodwork, attacked this, this, and it's like you almost have to ignore the crazies, really.
Well, I got a text from my niece last night.
Oh, last night.
11 o'clock last night. And she sent me she sent me to another website, and they were talking about Trump, and it was the same old rhetoric that was going on. This person was very opposed to him, of course, and
You're was opposed to Trump. Your family member?
no.
Oh,
No,
so
there was
video.
the video,
mm-hmm.
and actually he had written a letter, and there were, I guess, several letters
Yeah.
dissing him. So when I finished, I didn't even read all of it. I just read part of it, and I texted her back, and I said it's the same old rhetoric,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yes.
the opposition puts out. So
The talking points.
yeah.
Really, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would like to respond, but again, it's not worth the effort for me to get involved in it.
It's hard though sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every time somebody attacks something that we're doing that's genuine and like real, like
Yeah.
we can't go into that, but just recently, like with the torch, even trying to defend kind of what we're doing with it, and we're not playing any games, we're not trying to use anybody, we're not trying to get anything from anybody. It's just it's like getting the truth out there, right?
I look at it from the point of view that you have your opinion and I have mine. Why is it that I can't voice my opinion, but you can voice yours?
Right.
And it doesn't matter on what topic.
Right. Right. You just, as long as you can say anything you want to, as long as what you're saying agrees with me.
I'm paraphrasing, but biblically speaking, it says that don't be afraid that when you do what's right, that people come against you, because they came against Jesus as
Right.
well. So
if you're going to live a right life, you're going to experience persecution.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Or second one of those.
right.
So I avoid arguing with them. There's no point.
Sure.
You can't argue with a fence post.
Sure.
But it's hard though when you have a personality that wants to make sure people know that
Maybe that's why my husband told me to keep my mouth shut.
I want to give a piece of advice that the great Lieutenant Colonel Allen West gave me.
right there. Tell them.
Okay.
Yeah.
He said, "Don't tell people what you're against. Tell them what you're for."
Come on.
Okay. And I think that is a much better positive message. We don't need to be negative. We don't need to, even mess with the silliness of some of the things that, are lies, because we don't need to give credence or validity to lies. So we say what we're for, we stand on that, and we stand boldly. And I think that is a good message. I think doing that gives consistency in life, and people in this volatile, topsy-turvy world will gravitate towards that consistency, those values, because they're unchanging, right? Mm-hmm. Just like the Lord is unchanging. Yeah. If we can be unchanging, we will draw and attract the people that we need to.
That's right. Yeah. And the best defense is a good offense.
That's right.
That's right. Especially when you're on the basketball court and you're getting yourself smacked down and run over and tossed to the side.
Yes.
Like a.
Yes.
So anyway, you work the cut, Miss Pat.
You've got to come watch us sometime, Miss
Come
Pat.
watch us. Now, it is like 400 degrees right now, but it's not always going to be 400 degrees.
Of course, I've been working at 400 degrees for months anyway.
True.
So.
Why don't you get your basketball trunks on and come to the field? And we joke about that. You know what's underneath Miss Pat's hair?
What is that?
A third fist.
Okay.
Yeah, because she was the Chuck Norris.
Then I want her on my team.
Of the Golden Oldies. You're the Chuck Norris of the Golden Oldies. Yeah.
Basketball was never my forte.
I didn't play basketball until Misty.
And as a girl in high school, they didn't let girls play. Now, I have played football.
Oh.
You have played football.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
Like not powder puff?
Not powder puff.
What's powder puff?
It's where the guys are cheerleaders and the girls are the football players.
There was a bunch of us would get together every once in a while, girls and guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't
And-
see the guys up on the pyramid.
And
It was before the world got weird.
and
you
we
could do that without
Yeah.
it being like
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
weird.
but we
Weird.
played football, guys and girls together,
Mhm.
Wow.
and got kind of rough sometimes.
Yes.
Well, I guess we played football with y'all.
Yes. And it was pretty rough.
It was pretty rough. Well, that was when you get the ball though, and you're like
Yes.
running down the field. It's wonderful. Anyway, do we have some
Yeah, pros and cons of running.
pros and cons of running?
Okay. Ooh, interesting question. So, pros of running. Okay, I have to tell you a story. I'm not going to name his name. There was a gentleman that I had never met before that found my campaign page,
Mhm.
and he thanked me for running. He said that because I was running, he had more hope in the future, and he came to me with tears in his eyes. This is a big burly man that is a blue collar worker.
Mr. David?
No, it was not Mr. Jack. It was someone that I did not know.
Wow.
They did not know me
Yeah.
before. So one of the pros is being encouraged. When I see that, I'm encouraged to know what I'm fighting for.
Mhm.
My fellow man, my children, my future legacy of my grandchildren, Lord willing, and all of these things. So it is encouraging. You are an encouragement. That is a pro.
You got it right.
The con is that it is needing of the funds, right? That is an obstacle. If we're going to tell the whole truth, that is an obstacle that you will have to overcome. So one of the things I haven't mentioned is when I ran my race, I specifically said that I am not going to ask for donations because I want people to know that I'm real and that it's not about the money.
Right.
So I said, please don't donate. Spread my message. And I did still have some donations, coincidentally enough, from people that heard my message. So again, I guess that's going back to the positive, right?
Yeah.
It was encouraging to receive that and to receive that confidence. But a con is, the obstacle of needing funding.
You have to. It's almost like
Yeah.
kind of like, let's take the ministry for instance, and we can speak to that. It's like we would love to be able to do everything we're doing absolutely. We just pay for everything.
Right.
But the reality is we cannot.
Right.
And so the Lord has put into operation a way for His house to be fed, and His house to be clothed, and His house to be taken care of and maintained. And that is through the individual people. And of course it's a little different on a campaign than it is like for people are not giving their tithe, they're bringing their tithe back to the Lord. We give offerings.
Right.
And Misty and I, we've always felt like we've been heavy hitters on all that because we believe in that. We know the principles work, but it's like if we could do everything for free, we would do it.
Right.
But there is the business side of the operation that has to be taken care of, or you don't have anything.
Right.
So when it comes to campaigning and stuff like that, it's like if we could do it all for free, but somebody's got to print, somebody's got to do the signs, all of that. If you want a radio spot or a television,
Right.
it's like even the network here. The
Right.
network costs big bucks, and so it's like if I can drill a hole in the ground and get oil and just pay for everything and let everybody. But I think it's also good for people not to have everything for free.
Sure.
Case in point, when we used to do some events, when it's like, oh, this is a free event, just come. We would buy food, we would buy stuff, we would buy, things for it. And because there was no value on it for the person, it was just quite common for them to not come. And so we took some advice through some different conferences and things we went to, put some price tag on everything.
Mm.
Even if it's $5, because that exchange right there causes there to be value for the other person.
Right.
So having somebody like write the check, they're invested. Whenever we write a check for any like other ministries or campaigns and stuff like that, we're a part of that. We
Right.
feel like a vested interest in that and stuff, even though the person might have said, please, free.
Right.
But
Right.
anyway, that's our take. So
Yeah.
if you could have done it all,
Right.
but it's expensive. Everything is.
Getting those commercials,
Yeah.
those TV commercials.
Yes.
Goodness, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars. And sadly enough, what I've seen is the one with the most TV commercials wins, because people are still being spoon-fed information. And again, that veil for me started being pulled back, I think for others. But we want to help our friends that maybe the veil hasn't been pulled back to understand and really get involved in get into the meat of the matter.
One of the reasons why you're doing this, Miss Pat?
To get people off their backsides, get the silent majority out, get them up and voting. They still have time to register if they haven't registered, and don't mail it in. Don't mail it in. If you can possibly drag yourself to the polling place, do it. And
You mentioned Bob, his stance, and there was like that one time that y'all actually could, because of.
yeah, my husband, I'll say he was retired military. He was a 100% disabled vet from Vietnam, and which was not a war, by the way.
Right.
And there was one time before he died that he just couldn't go to vote, and we did a mail-in vote on that one time.
Were they trying at that time? Were they doing all the ripping off of the ballots during that particular time? Or was
No,
that prior to the?
that was prior to, because he died 7 years ago. So,
Or not that you know of, right?
or
Not that we
yeah.
know
Not that
of,
we
yeah.
know of.
I
That's
think
true.
a lot of been cheating going on for a long time. I think.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So y'all mailed that in that time, but he would drag you down there, rain or not, huh?
Mm-hmm. I look out the window and say it's raining. Oh, get an umbrella. It's snowing out there wherever we were. Well, put your boots on. Wear a coat. And it can be fun. Standing there in line talking to all these people.
Yeah.
It can be a lot of fun.
We always take our kids to the voting booth with us, and we always get comments about how well behaved they are and what a great job we're doing, because we're getting them involved in the process. And if you're a young person with a family watching this, that is something very important to start them on. My children know about politics. They know about taxes. They know about what it means to be president. And I assumed that was the norm. And one day we had a little kid that we knew, and I was asking him a question about, do you know who's the president? And they're like, no. And I was shocked because they had no clue. So getting your kids involved, I think, is another important. Now we shield them from certain aspects of total craziness with certain issues
Right,
that
of
are
course.
perverted.
Yeah.
We don't talk, but it's very age appropriate. Obviously taxes and other things like that are age appropriate.
The capitalistic
Yes.
stuff too. It's like if you open up a lemonade stand at your corner and you go out and put all the effort, then we're going to give all your money to your brother. It's like, it is the Tuttle is it
Tuttle Twins
had one something like that,
Yes,
similar on
yes.
that. Is that a good
They
series?
love the Tuttle Twins.
And it's built for helping people understand
Yes.
the American
Yes.
model.
Yes, the ideas of capitalism and all of that. Yes.
Kind of American values.
Yes.
And this is kind of like what a little bit of this is about. If we're going to preserve anything for them, then just us common folks, not even the elites, the ones that are the crazy ones who think they're something else, the elites, it's the common people,
That's who
little folks.
That's who we're talking to.
Yeah.
That silent majority that's sitting there on their couch watching the propaganda that's put out over media and sitting there saying all sorts of things that the TV said, or their spouse, or their kids or whatever, you know, and not really talking to somebody who can do something about it. They're legislatures, they're congressmen and women, and that's the whole point of it. As a matter of fact, I'm working on a class right, and now it's not ready yet, but it's going to teach people how to research their candidates, and take it a step further. It's going to teach them how to find out what's on the agendas when they're meeting,
Right.
and be able to get in touch with them if they don't like this bill that's coming up. We'll say so,
Right.
and say it to your congressman.
Mm-hmm. Can we come back around to what you were saying a minute ago about kind of behind the scenes on? I think we didn't hit really on that. The stuff that you saw behind the scenes. Is it more? Is it? It's mainly more the career politicians that are back there, or is it just a average everyday folks trying to make a difference and stuff like that? And it is. Just anything, any information you can provide if somebody is wanting to run for office, kind of what to expect,
Sure.
So they can, I guess, stay with their convictions and stuff like
Right.
that, not get disillusioned a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So, again, advice from the congressman. He said, if you don't have $100,000 in the bank, you're not going to make it. He also said, basically, if you don't have strong convictions when you get to Washington, you're going to change because everyone changes. And I think money and power can definitely affect people. That's why I think someone should prayerfully consider, because we're not all called to do the same thing. We're not all hands. We're not all ears. We're not all feet. Everyone has a different position. And for the people that are called into running, I think just really considering what they're up against. You're up against a machine. Okay, Donald Trump is up against a machine.
A machine.
He is very wealthy. He is powerful without the title. He has convictions. He is also up against a machine. So it doesn't matter where you are, you're up against that. And so I do believe that we can change things one person at a time. That's how it's got to happen. And going back to what we said earlier is that if you don't share your beliefs, they die with you. If you are not sharing that with your children, your grandchildren, they need that guidance, right? You give them advice in other things. Why not tell them your story? If you're a business owner and you've been affected by this economy, if your home's paid off and you are affected by high property taxes, let's talk about why that is. And most people, I've heard people say, well, I'm not very political. Well, unfortunately, politics affects your life, whether you consider yourself political or not.
I think we talked about that last week, talking about a pyramid. Everything is a pyramid, and that includes politics. It's not about Republicans or Democrats.
Right.
It's about the people and God.
That's right.
And they've lost sight of that. They've taken God out of too many things.
That's right.
And, okay, we are in a spiritual war.
Absolutely.
We're not fighting with guns and ammo.
Right.
Thank goodness. I don't know. Maybe the other way is worse.
I don't know.
But it's going to take a lot of prayer and a lot of action on the part of God's people.
Yes.
That silent majority. God gives us all different abilities. We don't all have to run for office.
Right.
To get there.
Right.
But we do have to take some step. Support the person running for office.
Right. Yes. In many ways. There are ways that don't cost money, as we've discussed, sharing their information and one thing that I do when there is an election coming up during the primaries is I actually post publicly all of the candidates that I'm going to be voting for, because I get lots of messages because people know that I do my research and I look into the candidates, so they always ask me for recommendations. I put out a list after I have gone through and really vetted their information, read some responses, maybe gone to some campaign events. I put that out there so other people know. And a lot of people aren't aware of the process either, in that you can print that off and take that into the ballot box with you.
We do that all the time, especially with the iVoters Guide. You know that you
Yes,
learn to
yes.
take the iVoters Guide,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of great places that do the background checking, and not necessarily background checking, but where's the follow the money. What have you spent money on in your campaign?
right,
Who have you given the candidate? Who have you given money to? Which tells a lot.
right.
And who is giving money to you, which tells a
Absolutely.
lot. And then being able to, the people don't think that they can take papers to tell them who to, for their
Yeah.
own personal use, but you can. So,
Another thing that you can utilize is going to primary campaign events when there's 2 or 3 or 4 people running for a position, and which was the case in one of our races recently. I always go in open minded to everyone. I did know one of the candidates. I did know her record of being a grassroots conservative, and that definitely, I went in thinking, okay, she's great. I'm going to give this other guy a shot. It was very apparent when I listened to the answers. We cannot be persuaded by taglines like others are. We really need to get to the heart of the substance. One of the things that this guy kept saying is, well, we just need more funding for that, or, well, I would fund that. And there was no substance in his answers. And so it was unfortunate that a lot of people kind of fell for those taglines and didn't go beyond to hear what he was actually saying, which I don't agree with. Funding is not the problem.
Yeah. So what it all amounts to is learn your candidates.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Yes.
Learn who they are. Learn if they're an incumbent, do they need to be reelected?
Right.
What's their voting record?
Right.
In Congress, Senate, wherever they are. Doesn't matter if it's local, state, or federal.
Right.
Start at the local level. Go to city council meetings
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and things like that.
we're going down and at least sitting in on some of them.
Sure, go in and listen. School board meetings.
Yes.
You went to a school board meeting back a year or so ago. Waco School Board, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, not us. We went down to when they were talking about, and again, I guess because the people that might be watching, there was a particular city council that was pushing
City
towards
council.
sanctuary city for not letting the little ones survive, kind of thing. If that makes sense, the itty bitties, and so we went down there, and it was a lot of people that were down there. It was hundreds and hundreds, and they ended up having to break out the radicals and put them in their own room because it was getting so crazy down there. And it was a small group. I went and sat in that group, in that area, and then come to find out, like they broke up because there was too many people in the first conference room, and that was at the convention center, so it's a very large area. So they broke us out into the overflow area, and then they ended up breaking out almost the other side to a third area, and I went and sat in there. I went to see what they were talking about, and it was all this comrade business. It's like a communist thing. It's like networking to get each other. Let's get everybody's name and let's work together to overthrow this whole policy of this particular city council, who was bent on destruction of babies in the womb. And so let's just put it like that. And it was so crazy that what's going on, but we went because we wanted to let our voice be heard. It turned out the mayor said that we were not going to discuss that here at this particular forum, and it turned out later that they did let people discuss that. And I emailed him. I emailed the mayor, and he said, it's basically, sir, I never said that we weren't going to talk about that. It's like, yes, you did, And so I didn't want to be rude with the mayor of Waco, but it's like y'all did say, because we ended up leaving because we are going to talk about city streets and how close the trees are to the roadway and stuff like that. But the city council stepped down sometime after that, maybe because she couldn't get her way or because of the backlash, that happened. When the public is informed and when there's truth being told out there and people have an opportunity to respond, I think that's when the pushback happens. When everybody's sleeping or not going to any of these things, I think if there was just a couple of people that showed up at that thing, things might be a little different. That city council person might still be there pushing a sanctuary city for this area.
And don't discount the local seats that you can run for.
Oh, yeah.
Because they make a difference. I was shocked that a lot of Waco, it being not really a big city, not really a small city, that there actually are some radical ideologies that
within
are
the
here.
little, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're in our particular area, we're not a very big,
very small area,
and evidently there is some socialistic kind of views on there, which is crazy. Like I hear this about like Kentucky having this weird statewide thing, and I again want to be careful because everybody who all is going to be watching this, but like you would think that like a state like that with the good old boys, how are you letting something like this pass within your public schools? Okay, within that area, how are y'all letting these confused people run the show? It's like out of all places, like you'd think the good old boys would come out of the woodwork and say something, but it's like some of those places that you would have never thought. Minnesota, some of the small towns, if you go up to some of those places, I've seen some of the videos where if you're driving down through some place in Minnesota, it looks like you're in Iraq. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like there's signs that are not even in English. They're all with the Arabic stuff because it's taken over by, I'm going to have to say, the Muslim group, and which if you're really a follower of that, if you really participate in that, it's not compatible with the Constitution of the United States. It's just not. So that's the truth, isn't it?
It's the truth. And you made a comment a while ago about there were a small group endorsing what the lady at the city council wanted to do.
Which one? I'm sorry. I mean,
when you went to the city council meeting?
Yeah.
There was a small group of radicals there.
Right, and they were crazy.
Now,
I mean, they were.
They always are.
Do you remember Richard Nixon's definition of the noisy majority?
I don't know if I was born yet. But
we talked about it last week.
Yes. No. Say it again.
Okay. The noisy majority is a small group of people who try to get their way by holding demonstrations in the streets.
Yes.
And I took that a step further. They do more than demonstrations now.
Yes.
Like burn down buildings and
yes.
hurt people?
Yes.
Okay.
So, but that's the opposite
of
the silent majority.
Right.
Why is that allowed?
Well, okay, that's a good question. Why is that allowed?
Why are they? Nobody does anything. I think the new guy that's going to try to run as VP let his state towns and his state burn.
So think about it. That is why the local races are important, right? Because this is all handled at a local level. Mm-hmm. So while what Congress does in Washington, D.C. does affect you, what happens at home affects you, I would say, possibly more. It's very important. Very important.
Go back to the authority of the sheriff.
Tell us.
the sheriff has more authority within his county than
Right.
Anybody.
anybody,
Yes.
Yeah.
and he can stop a lot of things if he is a constitutional sheriff. And there's a lot of them around. I can't remember the guy's name who started the whole thing.
Yeah, I get the guy's the email from him. He has a sheriff's posse. I think he's retired, but he stood up for members in his own
Art-
county.
Was it Arpaio? Joe
Uh,
Arpaio?
no, but he's one of them too. I can't think. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen.
Oh.
The guy and
David Clark?
no, but he told the guy that was dealing with the EPA, if you leave my county, I cannot protect you.
Yeah.
Stay in my county. And the sheriff said, if you come and keep bothering this guy, I'm going to arrest you if you get here. EPA to the EPA members, and
Wow.
they sent him a letter and said he's actually in compliance now, basically, and we will leave you alone as a milk farmer
Yeah.
that the EPA was messing with. He was unelected bureaucrats.
And that's an example of standing your ground. When you are
Yeah.
standing your ground and you are correct.
Well,
You know.
the sheriff, though, like we were saying, like the elected politicians even on the local level, like the county sheriff. The sheriff can arrest anybody that comes in his county, no matter who they are, if they're coming to bother citizens of his county with unjust regulations that are not law.
Right.
So, and I personally thought in a lot of ways that the local sheriffs investigating anomalies within the voting within their counties was going to be one of the ways that we were going to correct a lot of this. Because even if the state decides not to try to investigate, the legislators of the state decide not to try to investigate what's going on here. And at this point in history, everybody knows there's a problem with the election system.
Right.
Everybody knows there was some craziness. You can go look at Venezuela. The same spike happened then, and that voting system came out of Venezuela. Chavez is the one who came up with the software. He had the people, he didn't ever want to be voted out of office, so he hired people to create the software in order to be able to flip the votes remotely. And he stayed in office, I think, until he passed away. But anyway, it's like you can vote a socialist in, but it takes more than that to get him out of office, But so the sheriffs, even if the legislators don't do some criminal investigation on the voting stuff, the local sheriffs have the authority and power and cannot be told by the legislators unless they pass a law. And it has to be a constitutional law at that. It's what is that one book that you, it was the lower magistrate. Isn't there like a little book that came with the kit of it's something about the lower magistrates have an opportunity to step in or something like that?
Yeah. It's just a real thin little book. It's worth reading. Need to reread it. But there's all sorts of things out there, executive orders and mandates and stuff like that. They're not law.
Right.
Roe versus Wade was not law.
He acted like it was for sure.
Yeah. And the Supreme Court kind of sort of changed it, but
They don't make laws either.
they don't make laws, but they're the ones who started it.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Oops. Yep. Pardon me. Did that land on your toe? Did it bounce off my boot and land on your toe?
Yeah, it landed on my toe.
Uh-oh.
I'm crippled for life.
Oh, no.
You know what's on the bottom of your foot?
That's all.
A fourth fist. It was the Chuck Norris here. Guess what, guys?
We're out of time. Got
So
a couple of things to close out.
Okay.
maybe we should have Miss Kristen back on sometime in the
We
future.
will. We will.
Okay.
I think I already said it a while ago. We're in a spiritual war, and we need to use our God-given abilities, whether it's running for office or whether it's sitting here doing this or whatever our God-given. Maybe somebody is good at research. People can pull together in groups and discover what their candidates stand for and that sort of thing. But I've got a quote here, a couple of them here. One of them is from Mother Teresa when she accepted her 1979 Nobel Prize. She said, "My prayer for you is that truth will bring prayer into our homes. The fruit of prayer will be that we will try to do something. I left something out.
Well, just read it again. That's okay.
Okay. First, we bring truth into our own homes, our next door neighbor, in the country we live, and in the whole world. And let us all join in prayer worldwide, which is something that is slowly coming about. I'm reading a book by Addison Bevere called Words with God. And I thought it was kind of interesting. Biblically speaking, the people of God don't go into exile because of the wickedness that surrounds them. They go into exile when they participate in what unmakes the nation. Could your silence be the unmaking of this nation?
Right.
So we all need to come together as a group and work this whole thing through and
Yes.
stand up for our rights, and that's where we're falling short.
And there's just one person, one citizen, taxpayer, citizen, Miss Kristen, who saw a need and with the backing of her husband, took a chance and tried to do something. So can they. So can they. So can you. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Father, thank you so much for allowing us to get together. Thank you for allowing us to have the platform that you've given us, to be able to share the truth, hopefully in an encouraging and a light way, but there is a seriousness to it as well. God, you've given us something precious. You worked through our founding fathers. You worked through those founding documents to give us something that's lasted this long, but it won't last if we don't participate. Lord, you never called the individual people of this nation, the citizens of this nation, to be just the silent majority. You called us to be a part. You called us to be out there, being able to preserve this for the future generations. And I think we all can say, us included here and those over the airwaves, that if we don't do something now, we're teeter-tottering basically on the edge. And so if we want to keep this, we have to be involved. Lord, we love you, and we know that your Holy Spirit is able to work through the hearts and lives of the people. Your Holy Spirit is able to work through the politicians. Matter of fact, you told us to pray, first of all, for those in government. Lord, they're under attack too from the enemy. They're being deceived by the enemy just like all of us. Lord, help us to lift them up in prayer as well, and also as citizens, God, do our part. We love you, we thank you, and we bless you. In Jesus' name. Amen. Till then, bye.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
When we think of all of your wonders, the beauty of your plan that's been revealed when we walk in your light, we're walking it. Shine bright, let your glory fill this land. Lift high, the King of Kings and great I am, Jesus. You are the word.